Okay, so let's look at step 3. Step 3 of a community engagement initiative is listening to the community members. So, as a community engagement practitioner, you need to be able to take the time to have a two-way conversation with the community. It's not about us going into the community and speaking to the community, but it's about us speaking with the community and allowing the community to speak with us too. Okay, so you need to answer A, how can you connect informally with community members? B, how you will introduce yourself, and C, what questions you will ask. So look at your case study and then look at possible ways for you to interact with the community. Take into consideration the community context, where it's located, geographical background. Also look at traditions, beliefs, values. Um, there's certain communities that certain things are okay, and then there's certain communities where you need to do things in a different way, which we need to take into consideration. Okay, look at gatekeeper, because maybe the community has a chief that you need to get permission from before you interact with them. Look at maybe traditions. So maybe your tradition and culture is different to that community, and you need to first understand their culture before you approach them, right? So take this into consideration when you're looking at how you will introduce yourself. Um, then look at what questions will you ask them, right? So your questions that you ask them will be specific to your case study. So if it's for textile technology students, then you're looking at questions related to farming, looking at questions related to land, you're looking at questions related to uh, looking at experiences. Do they have experience in farming? Do they know how to conduct farming, etc.? All right. So when you're looking at your step 3, looking at your assessment criteria, step 3 is listen to the community members for 5 marks. You need to have ideas to connect informally to the community. These need to be identified, these need to be spelled out, it needs to be relevant to the context, as I mentioned. Take into consideration where these people live, what their traditions, beliefs, cultures may be, and then look at appropriate ways to informally introduce yourself to these communities. How will you introduce yourself? Okay, then look at how you would introduce yourself, evidence that they considered power dynamics and participatory research principles. Okay, so power dynamics meaning you don't want to go into this community and make yourself look better than the people who live there. You don't want to go into this community and give yourself precedence over the knowledge they have. All right, so take into consideration that you want to be an equal member of a partnership with this community, and ensure that you respect those in the community who are considered to be higher um, in terms of authority figures, for example, a chief. Okay, then also look at participatory research principles is the principles of creating a partnership. You are looking at a two-way partnership with two-way decision making. You are looking at creating an equal partnership where all members are seen as equal active members of the group who all have something to share and something to bring to the group. So take this into consideration when you look at introducing yourself. Okay, then you need to have the question stated must be relevant and to the context of your case study. So look at questions related to your specific case study. What is the need of Tembelichle? What is the need of Tobeka? Okay, your questions need to be related to their needs and how you would like to assist them going forward. Okay. So now that you've devised questions to ask the community members relating to your case study, let's look at step 4. So step 4 is bringing people together to develop a shared vision. Okay, so you need to answer Who will you invite to your meeting with the community members? Where will you hold this meeting? What outcomes do you hope to achieve at the gathering? All right. So, who will you invite to your meeting with the community partner? So, what um, types of people would you want to be involved? So, if you're looking at the nautical studies students, you would be looking at preferably high school students in the inland provinces that you have been allocated. You would be looking at parents, you will be looking at community members, you will be looking at high school teachers. So you will be looking at all the stakeholders that may be involved in a young person's life to either help motivate them into the direction of nautical studies or to create awareness. Okay, so we're not asking them to force young people in inland provinces to work in fields of maritime, but we're just creating awareness so that they encourage students who or young people who want to do it to pursue the field. If you're looking at your textile students, you would need to look at community members who are available to do farming. You would also need to look at the fact that there's a high teenage pregnancy, which means there's a lot of young women who are not working, who haven't completed school, but who have children that they need to support. So they may also be good potential farmers. So you could look at them. You need to look at leaders in the community. You need to look at uh, potential sponsors. You could look at industries in both cases. Okay, so where will you hold the meeting? Now remember, you're working with communities, and it may be easier for us to get around, but it's not as easy for them to get around. So when you're looking at a venue for your meeting, ensure that it's one that's convenient for the community more than anyone else. Okay, what outcomes do you hope to achieve at the gathering? So look again at your case study. What's the need of Tembelishle? What's the need of Tobeka? And then what your outcomes are should be related to their needs. Okay, so what do they require of you, and how you can help them achieve this is very important. Okay, so what the outcomes you wish to achieve will be related again to the need of Tobeka and Tembelishle. So read again your case study and then familiarize yourself with what you would need to do. So going back to our assessment criteria, question 4 or step 4, which is bringing people together to develop a shared vision, is for 10 marks. So you need to ensure that this is specific, it's detailed, it's informative, and that it answers the questions in full detail so you get your full marks. Okay, so you firstly need to ensure that the student identified who they will invite to the meeting. Community in totality is considered. Venue is identified and is situated in the community. Outcomes for the meeting are identified and it is relevant to the context of the case study. All right. So as I explained, ensure that you take into consideration all the community members that you should invite. Also look at taking into consideration where you're going to have your meeting. Take into consideration the case study, the needs of the people in your case study, and then use that to help you decide on an outcome you would like to achieve through this meeting. Okay, so let's go back to our case study and look at step 5. Step 5 is assess the community assets, resources, needs, and issues. Okay, so briefly describe 2 methods you might use to assess the needs of the community, the assets of the community, the resources of the community, and or issues. Okay, so let's go to Blackboard. If you go to your Blackboard and you go to content again and you scroll down, sorry, there's tools for community needs analysis. So if you tick on this, you will be taken to a document. Please explore the above document. You will notice that it refers to 6 tools that can be used for assessing the needs of a community. Once you have investigated the 6 tools through careful examination of the method advantages, disadvantages, get together with your group members working on the case study and select 3 methods that will be suitable to apply in your case study. So the Makatini Flats community and then Thembelihle community in Bloemfontein. Then also remember to consider the principles of community engagement and development. Okay, so read the tools, look at which would be the best for your case study, and then you can go back to your case study and we can answer the questions. Okay, so you need to indicate the type of assessment you have chosen, the goal of the assessment, so what do you want to achieve through this assessment, and then the description of the activity. How will you use this assessment, right? So the type of assessment, the goal of the assessment, and the description of the assessment. So you need to have a minimum of 3 tools that you would use to assess the community's assets, resources, needs, and issues. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so the assessment criteria for step 5, which is assess community assets, resources, needs, and issues, for again 10 marks. So make sure your answer is detailed, informative, specific, and clear, more importantly, right? So you need to ensure that you have 3 methods to analyze and identify the needs of the community. It needs to be relevant to the context. So remember, we are looking at South African communities, one in KZN and one in Free State. So the methods you use need to be specific to those contexts. So the goals of your assessment needs to be identified, it needs to be stated clearly, and it needs to relate to the tool you use. So if you're using a specific tool, it has to be the best tool for the goal you're trying to achieve, right? Then have a brief description of each method or activity should be included. You need to ensure that whatever tools you decide to use, their brief description of how you will use the tool is included. Okay, so ensure that your descriptions are detailed and clear so you get the total of 10 marks. All right, so let's look at the next step, which is step 6, helping the community members to recognize and articulate areas of concern and their causes. Your task is to follow up with any individuals or organizations that indicated an interest in being involved and help them to process the results of the community meeting. You will explore with them the areas of concern that were voiced in more depth than was possible at the visioning session and examine their root causes. You have decided to tackle this task by organizing a meeting. Okay, so in step 3 and 4, you organized meetings with the community to find out what their needs were and to hear their side of the story and to listen to what they had to say. Okay, so in step 6 now, you are looking at understanding what they have told you, and because now you have research on the subject area, you have research on the community, and now you have the community's advice and the community's concern. So you need to put that together, understand it, and then you can articulate it better to other partners that may want to be involved as well, right? So you need to answer the questions of who will you invite to this meeting? Who are the partners, the organizations, the NGOs, the NPOs, the civil society organizations, industries, and communities that you want to invite to this workshop or to this meeting? How will you invite them? What methods will you use to invite them? When and where will you hold this meeting? Again, take into consideration the community will also be attending this meeting and they are your primary partners. What do you hope will be the outcome of your meeting? So again, what do you want to achieve through having this meeting with the stakeholders. All right, taking it back to when and where you will hold this meeting, look at how long after the first meeting will you want to have a follow-up meeting. How long will it take you to analyze all the information you have and to